Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again, ready to plunge into some fascinating territory and pull out the core ideas from our sources.
Yeah, absolutely. And today we're tackling something really interesting, the power of words themselves.
Exactly. You know how some words just feel heavy? They seem to hold these huge, sometimes dark concepts within them.
That's definitely the case with the word we're looking at today. It's got this real gravity to it.
The word is nefandous. Even just saying it. It sounds kind of old, maybe a bit ominous.
It does. It has a very striking sound.
So our mission for this deep dive is twofold. First, we want to really get under the skin of nefandous, what it means, where it came from, its history.
And then the really crucial part, we'll look at how a contemporary writer, Mónica Ojeda, takes the idea behind this word, this unspeakable quality.
Then uses it to explore something very modern and honestly quite chilling. These digital cultures of horror that emerge online.
Right. We're going to try and unpack those connections she draws between language, technology, and maybe some hidden aspects of the human mind that her work brings to light.
Okay, let's start with the word itself. Nefandous. How do you even say that properly?
Good question. It's NEFANDOUS.
NEFANDOUS. Okay.
Yeah, if you say it a couple of times, you might notice it feels a bit archaic, but still, powerful somehow.
It does have a certain weight, so what does it actually mean? What kind of situation or act would be described as nefandous?
Well, the core meaning is something like, so wicked it defies description.
Wow.
Yeah. Think abominable, appalling. Or maybe the most resonant definition is unfit to be spoken of.
Unfit to be spoken of. That's quite something.
It really is. It's a strong negative term. You also see meanings like impious, execrable. It's basically pointing to something that's just beyond the pale, something so awful you shouldn't even utter it.
Okay, not to be spoken of. Where does a word like that come from? What are its roots?
It tracks back to Latin, to the word nefandus,
Nefandous.
which meant wicked or unmentionable. And you can break that down even further.
Okay.
You've got ne, which is the Latin prefix for not.
Right, like in negative.
Exactly. And that's combined with fandus, which meant to be spoken or to be uttered.
Ah.
And fandus itself comes from the verb fari, meaning to speak. So put it together, nefandous literally means not to be spoken of.
That's incredibly direct. The meaning is baked right into the structure of the word.
It really is. And its first known use in English is around the 1630s, maybe 1649 specifically. So it's been around for a while.
That directness really emphasizes the core idea. Now, when I hear nefandous, my brain immediately jumps to nefarious. They sound similar, feel similar. Are they related? Synonyms.
That's a really common connection people make, and yeah, they're often used as synonyms today. Both definitely signal profound wickedness.
But there's a difference.
There's a fascinating difference in their origins, their etymology. As we just said, nefandous comes from fari, to speak implying something too horrible to say. Nefarious, on the other hand, comes from the Latin word fas.
Fas.
Yeah, F-A-S, fas meant divine law, or what is right according to the gods. So something nefarious is technically something that violates that sacred divine law.
Whoa. So one is about breaking the act of speech through sheer awfulness. The other is about breaking, cosmic rules, divine order.
That's a great way to put it. While in everyday use they might seem interchangeable, that original distinction is quite profound. Nefandous is an affront to language. Nefarious, an affront to divine law.
Does that distinction still matter much now, or have they basically merged in meaning?
In common speech, they've largely merged. But knowing the roots gives you a deeper appreciation, especially when we see how writers like Ojeda might be playing with these ideas of the unspeakable.
Okay, so to really grasp the power of nefandous, were there historical examples? How was it used?
Definitely. You find it used in some pretty intense ways. There's a quote from the Greek writer Lucian where he compares a nefandous person to a poisonous snake, like an asp or a viper. Yeah, he says something like, it's better to kiss the snake because a doctor might cure the bite, but the poison from the kiss of a nefandous person is so bad you couldn't even approach altars or pray afterwards. It pollutes everything.
Wow. So it's not just evil, it's kind of like spiritual contamination, unholy.
Precisely. And you see the word, or the concept, echoed in major literary works too. Think Dante's Inferno, some of H.P. Lovecraft's cosmic horror.
Ah, Lovecraft makes sense. Things unfit to be spoken of.
Exactly. And even James Joyce in Finnegan's Wake. These are writers plumbing the depths of horror and the taboo, so the word fits right in.
Okay, so we have this powerful old word for things so awful they shouldn't even be mentioned, unfit to be spoken of. But we live now. in this age of the internet where everything seems to get spoken about, shared, shown endlessly.
Right. That's the tension, isn't it?
So the big question is, how does a concept like nefandous, something defined by its unspeakability, fit into our hyper-connected digital world? Does it even exist anymore?
That's exactly what we need to explore. The internet, I mean, it's this massive space, right? All sorts of people, all sorts of interactions.
Yeah, countless communities, cultures forming online.
And within that, researchers and writers like Ojeda are identifying what they call digital cultures of horror.
Digital cultures of horror. Okay. It makes sense. The internet feels like it's become just another part of reality now, not separate.
Totally. It's where so much contemporary folklore, myths, rumors, legends, where they're born and spread like wildfire, like urban legends on steroids.
Yeah, exactly.
And one really useful way to think about the internet, which Ojeda touches on, is as a kind of Gothic space.
Gothic space, what do you mean?
Well, think about Gothic literature castles, hidden passages, darkness, anonymity, things crossing boundaries they shouldn't. The internet shares some of that. It doesn't have clear geographic borders, time feels weird online, and crucially, you can be anonymous.
Right, the anonymity aspect is huge.
Which makes it this perfect breeding ground for fears, for horror, for things that might normally stay hidden to come out into the, well, maybe not the light, but into the open display of the screen.
That's a really potent metaphor. But the internet's not all bad, obviously. There's connection, community. Does Ojeda just focus on the dark side?
She definitely zeroes in on how the internet seems to amplify or reflect some of our darker impulses, how it can become a stage for the nefandous. And within this Gothic space, you have areas like the dark web.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which, because it often lacks real content control, can become a haven for, well, everything egregious, as one source puts it. Places where truly disturbing things, violence, exploitation, criminality can fester.
So the argument is that the structure of the internet itself, especially parts like the dark web, can actively cultivate the very things we used to call unspeakable.
That seems to be the unsettling insight. It's not just that bad things exist online, but that the technology itself might lower the barrier for engaging with or even creating content that fits this nefandous description. It challenges what unspeakable even means anymore.
And Mónica Ojeda, the writer we mentioned, she sees this clearly. She has this quote, "The internet is full of places, languages, and territories, and is, in itself, an alternate world. All the social problems of our world exist online. Robbery, pedophilia, pornography, organized crime, drug trafficking, hitmen."
Yeah, that quote really sets the scene for how she approaches this in her fiction.
So let's talk about Ojeda. She's an Ecuadorian writer, right? Relatively young, but getting a lot of attention.
That's right. Recognized by Granta as one of the best young Spanish-language novelists. And her work is known for not shying away from tough themes, violence, fear, pain, taboos. She really goes there.
And her key move seems to be showing the internet not just as a setting, but as a vehicle for horror today, and pointing out that we, the users, the netizens, we're the source of the awful stuff.
Exactly. It's not some external monster. It's reflecting something in us. Her work forces you to kind of confront that possibility, which is uncomfortable.
Okay, let's get concrete. You mentioned case studies. Her novel Mandibula uses creepypastas. Now, most listeners probably know what creepypastas are, those scary stories spreading online.
Right, like digital folklore, short horror stories, spooky images, videos, audio. They get copied, changed, spread by online communities, part of what some call net lore.
So what's Ojeda's specific angle on them in Mandibula? What makes them nefandous in her portrayal?
What she really highlights is their power to blur the line between fiction and reality. How they can make these stories feel intensely real, even if they're bizarre.
Creating real fear from fiction.
Exactly. In the novel, you have these young girls who become genuinely terrified by stories they read online, like tales of mothers eating their daughters. The nefandous element is how this digital fiction starts to warp their perception of reality, inducing genuine dread and paranoia.
That blurring sounds key. And the anonymity online must feed into that, right? Makes it harder to dismiss.
Absolutely. Anonymity adds to the sinister vibe. And because anyone can copy, edit, and share them, they become these weird collective creations. The novel mentions Slender Man.
Ah, the classic example.
Yeah, calling him a creature invented by hundreds and thousands of people who keep it alive. It's like a shared nightmare that takes on a life of its own.
That collective creation idea is chilling. So in Mandibula, these creepypastas have real psychological consequences.
Definitely. They fuel fear, influence behavior. They inspire the girls in the story to create their own dark myth, the white god and the white age.
And this echoes real life, sadly. Slender Man has been linked to anxiety, depression, even violence in young people.
Tragically, yes. And Ojeda's white god myth pushes the characters towards truly horrible acts. The source mentions eating their mothers, killing their brothers, or joining secret cults. It shows how these online narratives, these nefandous tales, can bleed into the real world and incite awful things.
Okay, that's Mandibula. Let's turn to her other novel, the one that gives us our title word, Nefando. This one deals with browser game cultures.
That's right. And the game within the novel, also called Nefando, sounds incredibly disturbing.
What's it involve?
The sources describe it as dealing with themes like extreme violence, pedophilia, zoophilia, child pornography, really dark stuff.
Wow.
Ojeda, through her characters, calls it a representation of the shit that surrounds us every day, something that reflects what's usually impossible to fix the eyes on.
So the game is meant to be this concentrated, maybe even exaggerated reflection of humanity's worst impulses.
That seems to be the core idea. And because these browser games can sometimes fly under the radar of censorship, they become these zones where players might feel free to explore or express their obscure selves, their lowest instincts.
Without shame, without consequence, almost daring themselves to be morally improper, as one source puts it. It makes you question the line between playing a role and revealing something real about yourself.
Exactly that. And what Ojeda depicts as truly chilling isn't just the content of the game, but the reaction of the players. They find this morbid curiosity in it.
Morbid curiosity?
Yeah, they're not necessarily playing for fun in the usual sense. They're caught by its power to fascinate in a disturbing way. A character even admits, we are all drawn to what disgusts us and we want to be frightened.
Even though we do not like to admit that freight is pleasant.
Wow. Right. The really scary insight there is how the technology might be tapping into these pre-existing, maybe hidden, human tendencies, making the nefandous less about something totally alien and more about something we actively seek out or engage with.
And the community aspect matters here too, right? The forums where players discuss the game.
Yes, the interaction in those forums is key. Sharing experiences, feelings about the disturbing content. It almost normalizes, it creates a shared space around these nefandous themes.
So what's Ojeda's ultimate goal with a novel like Nefando?
The sense is that she's trying to break the silence around the truly abominable, to find a language for it. By linking the horrors found on the dark web in these games to the real world, she's trying to expose those hidden desires, the unspeakable and most horrifying of humankind.
Forcing us to look at what we'd rather ignore.
Pretty much, it's a confrontation.
So, putting it all together, Ojeda's work seems to show this intense mingling of horror and technology. The internet becomes this platform, this amplifier for these digital cultures of horror.
Yeah, and it reflects how deeply the internet is shaping not just pop culture, but maybe our collective psyche, pushing the boundaries of what we see, share, and maybe even desire.
It feels like the main takeaway is that the unspeakable, the nefandous, isn't so unspeakable anymore. It's visible. Ojeda connects the digital horror back to the physical world, suggesting it reveals a darkness we carry within us.
Exactly. That old word, nefandous, meaning unfit to be spoken of, takes on this strange new life online, where seemingly everything can be spoken, shown, simulated, enacted. It becomes a space revealing some of the most detestable aspects of ourselves.
The internet isn't just showing us the nefandous, maybe it's accelerating it, making it more accessible. Stripping away politeness.
That seems to be the chilling implication in her work. It's not just a reflection, it's potentially an active crucible.
Which leaves us with a pretty heavy thought to end on. If an internet really has become a place where the nefandous is out in the open, where people actively engage with it, what does that tell us about our capacity for darkness?
Right. And how is this digital reality changing our basic understanding of what's truly abhorrent, what's hidden, what's maybe still unspeakable within ourselves? Is that category shrinking or just changing shape?
Something to definitely think about. We'll leave you with that question to mull over until our next deep dive.